The racing season is about to start and everyone is watching three of the biggest teams in recent years, Mercedes, Red Bull, and Ferrari. Who will come out on top after the winter break, and who will mess up? Have Mercedes finally been able to figure out their zero-pod design? Has Ferrari finally found a way to keep that engine working? Or will Red Bull be able to stay the top team even though they are struggling with a cost cap penalty? In today's video, we're looking at the biggest changes you can expect from these three teams, and which parts of the car they've most upgraded. Besides the big failure of last year's car, Mercedes' reason for sticking with its short-side pod idea for this season's Formula One car makes a lot of sense. Ferrari has a good explanation for why its 2023 car is just a small change to the 2022 model. Will there be enough against a Red Bull team that's getting stronger? They won all but 5 of last season's 22 races and there's very little change in the technical rules. This isn't to say Ferrari and Mercedes made bad choices. Such requests may be smart, but it's more important to stress this point as we get closer to 2023, since how competitive the season will likely be decided by the response. Mercedes thinks that last year's troubles had nothing to do with their cool and unique side pod setup. Technical director Michael Elliott says that there were times last year when they weren't so sure. Periods when we were questioning ourselves and asking, have we made a big mistake? Do we need to change what we are basically doing? But you know, if you tear it all up and start again, you're going to start further back than where you are. It's better to take the car you've got and build on it. Even though we had a lot of problems with the car last year, there was also a lot of good stuff in the car. There were things it did well. You have to be careful not to throw those things away by starting again. We've looked at it back and forth, says Toto Wolff, and we believe this side pod is not a performance-related part. I love the fact that we stayed bold and continued to follow what the science tells us. Indeed, the most important performance driver in this generation of car is the one that is least obvious, the super powerful underfloor. The side pod layout is basically just a second choice in how to best handle cooling needs while also making airflow speed faster through the space between the rear wheels, as this makes underbody performance better. The radiator arrangement decides the side pod form, which affects the placement and shape of the important underfloor inlets. The pods have little effect on air performance on their own. Everything serves at UNDER-FLOOR, and we still don't know what Red Bull, Ferrari, and Mercedes have done there. So this is one of the things the teams would love to keep a secret. Looking back at last season, we only got to see the real underfloor when the cars would get towed out of the grid, so we'll have to wait a bit to see what the teams have done. Here, the handling of the air platform was where last year's Mercedes W13 struggled the most. Fixing the first porpoising problem moved the car off its best rear riding height, reducing downforce and forcing them to install a bigger wing which increased drag. Keeping the ride height within a range that gave the most downforce while avoiding poor bouncing required driving the rear suspension really stiff, especially considering its limited range of travel. It had been planned that way without knowing about the porpoising problem. And because the entire rear-ending gearbox setup was based on this not good range of motion, they were stuck with it for the season. The amount of stiffness was bigger than the stiffness of the side walls of the tires, so the bouncing phenomenon, which is different from the air-caused porpoising motion, was created. Keeping the car in this really limited space made it really unpredictable when entering slow turns, despite its excellent high-speed corner performance. Actually, it was usually the fastest through such corners in the second part of the season. It was unbeatable through Austin's fast S-curves, for example, yet as usual, unpredictable and snappy around the slow corners and sluggish on the straights, in a perfect wind tunnel environment without the porpoising issue. The zero-pod concept combined with the W13's underfloor produced excellent numbers, statistics that if copied in reality would have left Red Bull and Ferrari fighting over the crumbs. That was Mercedes' belief until the car took to the circuit and showed its terrible reality. In simulation, the large amount of exposed floor caused a large volume of air to flow between the back wheels and pull harder on the underfloor air exiting. The tunnel diffuses as a result. The underfloor airflow is sped up, resulting in incredible downforce. Additionally, the compact pods allowed the floor inlets to be set in a way that Mercedes felt would maximize tunnel performance. It's natural that the Mercedes technical staff has been hesitant to give up this idea, so if the mechanical parts of the equation, particularly the rear suspension, can be made more friendly to the air demands of the car, and the underfloor can, but be made less sensitive, they may be able to begin to unlock the concept's previously unreachable potential. It is basically Mercedes' offer for a counterargument to Red Bull's overwhelming dominance in 2022. When looking at this year's Mercedes Challenger, it's clear to see they've introduced some changes to the front wing with new slot gap generator to make the airflow better. Next to this, there have been changes to the floor, especially on the front where the vanes were placed. It will be interesting to see if the new floor setup will enable the car to keep its composure during slower corners. Ferrari's is significantly different, but it has made a similar choice to keep its original idea with just minor changes. The outwashing side pod fronts and depression inside the side pod tops not only boosted the effectiveness of the louvers there, but also kept more airflow directed towards the beam wing without overflowing over the sides, resulting in significant downforce. This, along with a specially tuned power unit that provided super-fast acceleration out of corners, resulted in a car that won 11 poles last year, 2 more than Red Bull. Nonetheless, it proved unreliable and had to be run in detuned shape for most of the season. With the engine's reliability restored and its early season power restored, the Air Idea with a few adjustments, particularly the innovative S-duct around the cockpit sidewalls, will undoubtedly be a fantastic foundation for a title challenge. It is Ferrari's story. Ferrari's biggest change can be seen on the top side of their side pod, better known as the bathtub section. It has been made less dramatic, and the next exit louver will help to improve the radiator cooling in those areas. Next to this, they've also chosen to make changes to the front wing. It now has the common full-width slot gap between the front and second element. One important thing to note is that Ferrari chose to add 5 new vanes on the third and fourth flaps. These look familiar to the ones Mercedes tried to implement last year but got banned, so we'll have to wait and see if these remain legal for the start of the season. One or both of these approaches might be successful, but Red Bull will not have been quiet. Additionally, from what we saw, Red Bull's underfloor geometry was far more sophisticated than anybody else's and appeared to be built to maximize usable constant downforce across the speed range and operating circumstances. Even the team's use of modifications in the design of the intake fins to adjust the air center of pressure based on circuit demands revealed a degree of air skill unrivaled. This is the strongest Red Bull team we've ever had, according to Christian Horner. It's clearly firing on all cylinders, and it's hard to imagine that its wind tunnel time limit will be enough to knock it off track. Red Bull, unlike the other 2 teams in this video, haven't been as generous, so we haven't seen the new car just yet. But it's most likely to have some distinct changes in the main air areas such as the floor and side pods. We'll have to wait and see. So that's how the season is shaping up ahead of the first test. Who are you betting on? Will we get to see a proper 3-way battle this season? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to discuss the topic with you. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to make sure you're up to date with the latest news and upgrades on the grid when the season starts. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.